What is it you're saying, Dan?
It's beautiful. Look at these slopes.
Yeah. It's really quite special. Hi everybody of the vinyl community, John here. I'm going to tell you about my trip up to the north of England and my get together with James Griffiths, the vinyl professor. Earlier on in the season, my family and I decided that we were going to take a trip up to the Lake District. I'd never been there before, and neither had my family, so it was kind of a bit of an adventure. And I thought ahead of time I'll get in contact with James and see if we can't arrange a meet-up while I'm up there. And fortunately enough, it worked out okay. And James and I met on the 11th of August, which was the day before my birthday. So it was a bit like an early birthday treat, I suppose. Before I go any further, I'm going to show this. This is a record that James sent me in the post as VCLT. It was a complete surprise. I came downstairs one Saturday morning and there was a package for me, been delivered by the postman. Opened it up and it was a nice surprising record from James. He'd written a note and basically described how he bought it basically because he'd seen others talk about it. I think it had been recently released, or yeah, reissued and released, and he grabbed it but didn't really get along with it. It's not really his bag perhaps, and he sent it to me with the hope that it might be more my thing, and I can tell you that it actually is my kind of thing. I'm going to stick this on and we'll have it on the background. Basically, Weed are a sort of a side project of this guy Ken Hensley from Uriah Heep. It was made fairly early on, I think in between about the third or fourth Uriah Heep albums. He took himself off to Germany, I believe, to make it. So James and I arranged to meet at a place called Dalton Square, I think it was. And we met, went and grabbed a coffee, and we walked fairly briskly past some of the places where James frequents to buy his records. And then we went and looked at some of the sites. And James had been a student, I understand, in Lancaster University before, and so he had a lot of, memories and information about the things. We went and looked at Lancaster's castle. He spoke to me all about that. And we looked at the priory, sat in the garden, sat down, drank a coffee. Yeah, and basically got to know each other. It was a lovely sunny day, so it was a good opportunity to hang out and just chat, which is, great. After that, we went back to the sort of shopping area. We poked our heads in one or two charity shops, but we swiftly went to James's, I think, fair to say, favourite record store on the market that was in town on that day. Can't remember what its name was, but I'll put that here. I pulled out one or two themes. This was one that I found there. It's the soundtrack album of, it says the musical. I never really considered it being a musical, but I guess it is, of Absolute Beginners. I saw this film when it came out in the mid 80s, I think, purely because it had David Bowie involved. His single Absolute Beginners was basically the theme song to the film. There's another track on here by him too. But when I saw it, I think probably went over my head. It's sort of it's set in I understand 1950s London. It's sort of all about sort of the 50s jazz scene, I think, or whatever else was going on at that time. Yeah, I'll have to go and watch that film again, because like I said, it went over my head at the time. I'd probably understand it a lot more now. Anyway, there's a few people on this album. For instance, Sade, Star Council, Ray Davies, and Eighth Wonder. Yeah, Patsy Kensit. She actually stars in the film too. So no, I've often kept my eye out for this. Never see it. Glad to have found it. I think I only paid about £3 for that. And the other record that I did find there was this one. This is Jimi Hendrix, Cry of Love. This is the first posthumous album that was released once he died. I've had it for a long time, this record. I'll show you my original copy that I've had and talk a bit about that. But yeah, this basically has lost a corner. But I don't care, because it's actually a great condition record. It's on Polydor, Cry of Love. Now I've had this for since I was a kid, or a teenager at the very least. Picked it up at the time when Jimi Hendrix records and T-Rex and Bowie records were, you know, going for pennies at jumble sales in the 80s. This is my copy. Now when I picked it up, it had no sleeve or anything like that, so I made my own. It's basically, yeah, you can't see it. It's the greatest hits of Johnny Cash, Volume 1, that I've turned inside out and sort of drawn my own cover. Yeah, I think I was about 13 or 14 when I did this. And on the back, yeah, I've written the song titles and sat there with my watch, timing them to see how long. And I got all the way down to Astro Man, and obviously being distracted because I didn't continue for the rest of the album. Now this is a pretty rough state. It's fairly scratched up. On Track Records label. So I got this before the internet, before there was any way for, you know, a kid that I was at the time to look up and find out, you know, what the cell was or anything like that. I didn't understand that it had been released after he died. I think it's essentially the album that he was probably working on when he did die. But I've never really kind of engaged with this record. Maybe because it didn't have a proper cover, I don't know. Most possibly because it is, yeah, there's a lot of surface noise with it because it's scratched. When I bought it, it didn't have a cover. But also, I put it on the turntable to listen to it now, and it's actually got a big warp in it. So the first track or two, you know, it sort of jumps, it goes around and jumps. And I think that's probably why I never really kind of gave it the time of day. So that is a lovely thing about having a nice new copy, or new to me copy, and engaging with this now, because it's almost a little bit like reawakening my sort of early passion for Hendrix. It's great, it's a really good record. So it's nice to be able to catch up with that finally. So after that we looked in a few other charity shops and things. I found in an Oxfam shop there a copy of Deep Purple's Stormbringer, which I rate very, very highly, and I'd spoken to James about this, and so it was really sort of appropriate in the time to find the record. It wasn't the best condition, but yeah, for a few quid it was worth picking up, just so that he could sort of take it home and listen to the really sort of funk on that record, and the really good sort of interplay between David Coverdale and Glenn Hughes. Brilliant record. So I hope that he has listened to that and enjoyed it. So, cut long story short, we had a few pints in a pub where James had played before with his band. And while we were sitting there chatting and talking about politics and music and art and things, there was a band starting to set up. And we left around about the time when they started playing because we were kind of chatting and talking. And although that band were probably very good, you know, we couldn't talk possibly over there.
So here we are. This bar. I can't remember what it's called, but there's a band about to play. So we've got through a few pints here, and we're going to go further on. Anyway, it's rock and roll. So what was this called then?
It's the John O'Gorn. Ye old John O'Gorn.
John
O'Gorn was a famous historical figure. He was from King Henry IV.
All right.
And he was a sort of big historical figure.
We managed to sink a couple of pints in there.
Before being driven out.
Before we'd driven out by
noisy.
Yeah, if it's too loud, we're just not young enough, I guess.
We went to another place. So we went to a bar close to where my family dropped me off, and I waited for them to come and collect me. When my family got there, they came in, my wife came in, my kids came in, us grown-ups had another pint and chatted, got to know each other a bit more, and that was really fun, really enjoyed that. Although by that time I was slurring, so I probably had more than my fair share of beer. I don't know if James was, but
James and John, we had a good time.
We did. We enjoyed it.
We had some beers. We're slurring. We got some records. Spent way too much money. And it's off.
Not very impressive.
And now, and a final watch.
Look at this.
Woo! Yeah, that's record seriousness there.
before I forget, when I met James originally, he pulled out of his bag this record, gave it to me. I think he just grabbed it before I arrived. I can't be sure of that, but so it's John Williams and Cleo Lane. Cleo Lane, I understand, is sort of like a jazz blues singer, and John Williams, of course, is a very famous classical guitarist. Nice of you to give me this, James. It's kind of a record of two halves, I suppose. There are some very nice moments on this album.
Your smile is sweet, your eyes unclear. The morning sun has begun to rise, but the sound of the birds sound more like cries. I'm off to war with the other boys. My heart stays here with my only joy.
There's a few cringe-worthy parts on there too. I think I would struggle to listen to this all the way through. The ones that I don't like for instance, the first track on here is Feelings. Everybody sung that song, I'm sure, from Johnny Mathis to, I don't know, Andy Williams, and I don't know, I just don't like the song. And then there's the Killing Me Softly by Roberta Flack that they do a cover of. I've always been put off that song because, yeah, there's a passage in the Nick Hornby book about a boy where he uses this description to explain what somebody was like. He said she's the type of woman that will close their eyes and play Killing Me Softly while swaying on the piano. And ever since, you know, I read that passage, I've sort of, you know, not had a very fond view of the song. And then probably the lowest point really for me is the track number 6 on side 2. It's called He's So Beautiful. And it says here in brackets, a lyrical version of the musical composition entitled Cavatina. Anyone that's old enough will remember the song that they played in the gallery on the television programme Take Heart, where they showed pictures that had been sent in by kids that view the programme. It's that music, but the thing is, Cleo Lane has sort of written words and sung over that piece of music, which is, oh yeah, I think that it's cringeworthy. But anyway, it was very kind of you, James, to think of me and produce this when we got together. Okay, everybody, I think that's about all I'm going to say. Only other thing I can think of is that there's talk about the VC get-together in October in Leeds, I understand. There's a record fair, is it October the 6th, I think? Quite looking forward to getting together with other people from the vinyl community, probably James Griffiths too. I know Dean Everett plans to be there, so that should be fun. Okay, thank you very much everybody, check out my next video. Bye.